Hello everyone, I am Deso24 and welcome back for old comers of RWBY Versus, a show that takes research to see who wins a fight. Today's battle is between two sources of fiction, which ironically that their destiny have been played in their own take. What I mean is the battle between Weiss Schnee, the Ice Queen of Team RWBY, up against Kamen Rider Kiva, Heisei Generation's second character, Kamen Rider Axel, the member of the wonderful Blue Sky organization. And with that being said, no crossovers for this time. With that being, let's get to the analysis. Now, in the world of RWBY, there's hundreds of characters, but however, some of the characters, mainly some hunter and huntresses, are protectors of the world. Well, some of them really. However, even with Fantasy 7 and weaponry, isn't actually quite enough. That's where the organization of the Weiss Schnee company, that being the Schnee Dust company, defines them dust to provide a hunter or huntresses with the elements of fire, wind, earth, etc. And the owners of the company is pretty much the Schnee family, by husband and slash owner of the company, Weiss Schnee, is the heir of the company, while there are several successors of the company. However, a former and basically a daughter, that being Weiss Schnee. Weiss Schnee is a daughter of Axel Schnee. Jeez, basically not that. Anyways, she is going to become the heir of his grandfather company. That being said, everything was doing smooth to the same family, up until the racism of the fairness of the arriving of the fairness rampage or base of protesting, as well as the public execution from the hands of the new group named the White Fang, led by a man named Anna Terrace. Since then, the Schnee Fang had gone rough, and facing up needed to be its own. So Weiss Schnee pretty much snuck out one day, and pretty much found herself entering into the Beginning Academy, where her first day of school was a bit rough, even buying to her leader and future friend RWBY. But ever since then, Weiss Schnee had been the most gentle and very skilled swordswoman in the team of RWBY, belonging to the team after all. Now let's talk about Axel's story. Now keep in mind, this origin is pretty much very interesting, because there are many different versions of current Axel, but we had talked about where its source, that being the Axel system. Now, for those who don't know about the Axel system, it's actually coming from a different organization that fairly almost similar to the Schnee Dust Company. But the only difference is that the company is named after a wonderful blue sky organization. An organization that were based on hunters of the Frangra, and Frangra is pretty much members of it. Ever since the founder have fought and as well up against another Frangra, which is actually kind of Fable. Fable is actually the first and had to face out the first and slash typical one that being up for a bad monster. The first one to be as the first one who ever held the power of the current Axel prototype is an arm monster named Jericho. Is that right? The Jericho? Okay, but anyways, the current Axel title has belonged to many people to the days, and mainly it had been going on for years at least, ever since 1989. I will go towards the other characters we'll put in this list, or mainly that there are some, especially there's some different users of it, such as Ryo Magayasu, Yuri Yasu, as well as current. But today I'm also going to be focused on Kaisuke Nagato, the prime user of the Kamen Axel. That said, Axel is a pretty interesting character, but we'll get to that later. And his history is a bit brief, but he is a part and member of the wonderful Blue Sky organization, kind of with mantle of the Kamen Axel powers. With that being said, what they can do, Weiss Schnee, for starters, is a skills huntress. For starters, she's known for having dust, but we'll get to that later. With that being said, she's a skilled swordsman, shown in both the White trailer as well as some more. She's able to stand on her own against with her tough opponents, including powerful Grim, like that Grim of a Warhawk for starters. However, unlike the rest of the team RWBY as well as the rest of the characters, she possesses her own weaponry, known as Sprung, a wheeled dual sword that pretty much uses both a rifle and a pring. With it, those small crystals actually contain a dust that can able to earn power. For example, for the blue, it's for ice, creating ice constructs. For the red, it's mostly fire, which are able to hit any objects and cause it to explode. Wind can cause her blade to glow light and basically create small tornadoes, and you pretty much get the point. However, there's one thing I could say about the Team RWBY, that in the world of it, it's called auras. Auras is pretty much a majestic of the one soul, where every humans and animals have it, but not Grim. It holds the necessary energy source for all huntsmen and huntresses. It can be used as a purpose to be such. For Weiss, she can able to use her summon at conversion. It can able to summon any grunts at her aid where she likes, such as the record category of the server effect, or even White Versa. It creates a powerful stone-like force. But another summon that I could say is actually the summons, where she can summon any fallen Grim at her will, whether it be the flight, a Stugger Bee, or a armored Titan Knight. And yes, there's a Grim Knight. Although ironically that it is a pretty interesting one, so I'll give it credit for that. And basically, of course, the summoning can last for a little long time if the Grim been feared. Well, Axel do not possess any of the powers of it, but he is a very skilled fighter, known for having some very skills and as a trained bounty hunter, showing even different incarnations. However, each Axel has different forms as well as different types. For starters, the safe mode is a much weaker one than the previous one, but we'll get to there. But it's actually a beta form first at the current Axel. And then the second one is pretty much a burster mode. With it can be activated a leash wide range way of instant heat that can able to damage all nearby combatants. even gave Axel caliber, which we're gonna get to that later. But if a much more upgraded one, there's a rising mode. A much more upgraded stronger form of Axel unit. It is able to rival as well can toe to toe with Counter Kiba, the main protagonist of the show, of course. Impressive, but what else we can say? Well, there's a playing field such as a gun for its final form, even though I didn't put it, but the riser pretty much acts like a gun. But however, his main weapon of choice is his Axel caliber. His Axel caliber is pretty much a someone's dual weaponry. With it, it can able be powered up, or even access to the fans of Axel Judgment finisher. Of course, there's also his belt, the Axel Knuckles. The Axel Knuckles and the Axel belt are the harness of his power. With it, it can be used to transform into his Axel form. And with the Knuckles, it pretty much works as a normal punch, but just only known for punching. And a little fun fact, it can also be useful with the flutes. No, not like any flutes that you show in the show, but based on it's kind of like summoning weaponry that can activate forms, such as the doggy fake, which can summon a doggy hammer, Bassa fake, can able to summon a gun, and Buster comes with a sword, and you pretty much gain the point of it. With that being said, both combatants actually have their own weaponry and have done some crazy feats that have gone her way, especially face up with tougher opponents, as well as keep up with your rivals or enemies that you want to give a sight. But not all characters are perfect. Schnee, we also missed that. While she is a skilled combatant, but there's main problems with it. That being, she has the most lowest stamina compared to other rest of characters of RWBY. She can easily be tired as such. Plus, also knowing that in the show, auras are limited. It had to be used in its kind. If it stand too long or got expired, she would eventually get hurt by any other human or any crim. Like the time in Volume 5 where she got stabbed and impaled. If it weren't for the help of John's, then she will die. And that's just very scratched at the surface because she tend to be stubborn and a bit prideful. Even though that she did manage to master Volume 7 and her summoning, it can take over time. But she can overcompensate of her own abilities if the powers guys get her. But that being said, Weiss Schnee is no doubtly the most skilled swordsman in the RWBY. Although she may not possess the era of the Weiss Schnee, the Schnee Dust family company, she had finally found a home in Team RWBY, where she became one of the members, as well as having new friends with the team leader RWBY, the sister of RWBY Yang Xiaolong, and also the former White Fang member Blank Veladon. But is that right? With that being said, Weiss Schnee definitely found a home in the Team RWBY, even though she has admitted that she does have her own flaws. But overall, she is a capable fighter that has done some things. She may not escape from the grass, or based on she did. However, even with that saying, this is no stopping for this Ice Queen anytime soon. And since we're still on the pre-analysis, Axel is pretty much also flawed. For starters, like any character, without a belt or even a knuckle, he cannot transfer to his counter Axel state. And plus, not only that, while he is a very skilled fighter at his own rights, but if a powerful monster or a powerful opponent, like a Bankrupt for example, can be a huge issue for him even without a rare form. Or hell, even though in his rare form, he can still easily be defeated, as shown in different iterations, as well as been shown in different locations in a Kamen Rider's different series that be from the alternate world for starters. Also, the boost that I mentioned earlier in the analysis, it just mostly go out 3 out of 7, mainly because some of the rest of his boosts are useless without Kiba being involved with any situation at all, to be honest. Without that saying, Kamen Axel is still a proud bounty hunter and swordsman in the sting. While he may have flaws, but he has proven time again he is capable of fighting, no matter odds are stacked to him. And hell, even then, Katsu can have later on marry a girl named Makura, where he managed to get married and have a family. That is until a new mysterious evil came appear and fight once more. Even though it may be the end of Kamen Axel, but the legacy of the Kamen States will be forever, even passing through some generations before. With that being said, there's no stopping to this bounty for this Kamen bounty hunter. Huh. How can I feel that it always happened before with a secondary character? Huh. Well, that's based on for that. With that being said, these two are capable fighters. Even with or without help, they have capable on their own to face up with tougher opponents. But this is about between these two and who can win a fight. This was a tough one, and based enough, the winner of this episode would be Weiss Schnee. This was a very, very close one. While at best, Axel is definitely a much more skilled fighter if he get by a chance outside his Kamen Axel form. But that being said, the winner still goes to Weiss Schnee, and here's why. For starters, Weiss Schnee is a very skilled as well as very much more talented fighter than Kamen Axel. Don't get me wrong, Axel is a very skilled fighter in hand-to-hand combat, there's no doubt saying. But on his own, Axel just pretty much shows that he does only fight the capable in his own rate. Even then, Kamen Axel is still a capable fighter, but for Weiss Schnee, however, she is capable of fighting her own as well as experienced with tougher opponents. Outside of Fangra for Kamen Axel, but that's a completely different story between Grimm and Fangra. As for Lifting String, it's pretty easy to equal towards RWBY, where RWBY had done crazy stuff, especially trying to lift a giant bird Grimm. As for durability, it's a pretty close call on this one, but if I were able to judge it by its cover, I think I had to go towards the durability to Weiss Schnee, as with both strength and power. Because Weiss Schnee with her ice dust, she get able to at best froze a entire lake of water, which she get able to take up 522.5 tons of TNT, and with summoning, however, she get able to use it to tag and struggle as a mech, which also worth about 7 tons of TNT. If it up to that, then pretty much Weiss Schnee can't even win fights. And before it's judged, yes, while I do admit, while Axel does have his own advantages, thanks to the powers from the Axel system program. But even then, Weiss Schnee had proven herself very highly skilled, as well as much more higher experience, even though Axel, a very talented fighter, as well as seen much more higher stakes in the past. But that's pale comparison to Weiss Schnee, where she had seen a much more tougher foes and such. In the end, Husky or Nago may put up a good fight even with the Kamen Axel suit, but however, it was checkmate for this Kamen Rider. In the end, it wasn't rose to its end. The winner of this episode is Weiss Schnee of RWBY Universe. Now I can only wish I have a waifu.
Get ready for the next battle.